Maybe it's finally time to pull the plug, to plunge the glittering casinos of Las Vegas into an eternal darkness. Because the high-stakes dream they once sold is now a bankrupt fantasy no one is buying. This city, once a shimmering mirage of opportunity in the desert, has collapsed under its own weight, transforming into an unbearable burden where the cost of mere survival is astronomical. Housing is a crushing expense. The price of a car is crippling. The cost of a meal is extortionate. A hotel room is a luxury few can afford. And healthcare? It's a suffocating death grip on the working class. How can anyone with a clear head justify walking into these meticulously designed financial traps, all for a handful of cheap thrills that the city itself has already discarded? But when the neon glow finally flickered and died, it wasn't just the tourists' fantasies that were swept into the gutter. It was the very lifeline of its workforce, a silent, brutal erasure of every single barcode scanned on an employee's ID card. Thousands of loyal workers, the very cogs that kept the Vegas machine churning, are now being unceremoniously dumped onto the pavement, left bewildered and betrayed in a city that has declared them obsolete. And here lies the true chilling nightmare. Vegas isn't just losing its patrons, it is callously and systematically erasing the very soul of the city, the people who gave it life. In this investigation, we will venture behind the fading facade of Vegas's dimming lights to expose the terrifying vortex that is now consuming this city whole. We'll uncover the truth, from the cavernous empty casinos to the shattered dreams of workers now fighting for basic shelter. But is this merely the tragic downfall of one city? Or is it a chilling omen of a much larger economic darkness creeping across the entire United States? Join us as we expose the horrifying truth, because it seems the biggest jackpot a tourist can hit these days isn't inside a casino at all. It's the simple damning decision to stay away from Las Vegas entirely. The evidence is irrefutable. Straight from the Harry Reid International Airport's own data sent to the LVCVA. In the span of just 2 months, a staggering 1 million visitors collectively revolted, canceling their pilgrimages to this so-called entertainment capital. And within that mass exodus, the number of Canadian visitors plummeted by nearly 20%. This isn't just a worrying sign. It's a catastrophic blow, considering Canada represents a full 20% of Vegas's entire international lifeblood. This hollowed-out reality wasn't born from a single misstep, but from a catastrophic domino effect of pure greed. A toxic cocktail of baffling border policies, predatory hidden fees that bleed visitors dry, and a cynical CEO strategy of whale hunting. Aggressively targeting the ultra-rich elite, the 20% of patrons who allegedly generate a staggering 80% of the profits. And in this new elitist portrait of Vegas, the middle and working class families who built this city with their hard-earned dollars were deliberately cast aside, made to feel like unwelcome intruders. But when you push people too far, frustration ignites into rebellion. The tourists fought back the only way they could, by turning their backs for good. And the fallout was both immediate and devastating. Suddenly, hotels up and down the strip are in a state of sheer panic, slashing prices by a desperate 25 to 50% and scrambling to waive those universally despised resort fees in a pathetic attempt to lure people back. But it's too little too late. Once that trust has been shattered, it can't be pieced back together. The airplane seats remain hauntingly empty. The hotel rooms sit deathly cold, and the colossal casinos are now sinking into a premature, unnatural hibernation right in the heart of summer. But the ultimate tragedy is this. While tourists can simply pack their bags and go elsewhere, the loyal employees who powered this city's fantasy machine are the first to be ruthlessly discarded. As the flood of customers receded into a trickle, a wave of casino workers were thrown into the purgatory of on-call status, forced to wait by the phone for shifts that might never come. This is a cruel game where they can go days without a paycheck, their income slashed to the bone. In the last month alone, Las Vegas bled a net 4,300 jobs. That's 4,300 lives thrown into chaos. 4,300 empty lockers and 4,300 families now staring at their kitchen tables, agonizing over every single bill and every single meal. And for those who are lucky enough to still have a shift, the nightmare doesn't end. Countless service workers across the Strip report their tips, their very livelihood, have been gutted by 30 to 50%, a direct result of empty rooms and the few remaining patrons clutching their wallets in fear. One worker's voice cuts through the corporate spin. Her words a chilling testament to the reality. The bills just keep coming, and I honestly don't know how I'm going to feed my family anymore. This is the brutal, unforgiving reality when a job that once promised stability evaporates into thin air. And while corporate executives pat themselves on the back for saving billions through restructuring, the pockets of their workforce are being systematically emptied. Let's be perfectly clear. When the tourism machine breaks down, it is always the workers who are forced to pay the price. And so the vicious death spiral accelerates. Visitors spend less, forcing restaurants and hotels to slash hours, which in turn causes employee incomes to crater even further. The headlines are a constant drumbeat of closures and restructuring. The Poker Palace in North Las Vegas, a cherished landmark and a piece of the community's soul since 1974, has just callously announced its shutdown, extinguishing over 120 livelihoods in a single breath. And don't be fooled, this wasn't a closure, but a cold-blooded transfer to Truckhucky Gaming LLC, a corporate sleight of hand. For the hourly workers left behind, the income chasm is not just a gap, it's a free fall into financial ruin. Overnight, that financed car, once a symbol of stability, becomes a crushing weight of debt. Suddenly, putting food on the table becomes a desperate game of numbers, and that roof over their heads, once a fortress of security, reveals itself as a fragile illusion, a soap bubble shimmering on the edge of collapse. It seems the glittering stage of Vegas has brutally decided it no longer requires its supporting cast, the very people who spent decades polishing its shine and keeping the lights blazing. A city might survive a few sluggish quarters, but it is doomed to rot from the inside out when its lifeblood, the labor force that powers every single light, is cast out into the darkness. And if the grand stage of the American dream is now drawing its final curtain on the very hands that built it, then where on earth is there any space left for that hollow promise of equality for all? As thousands of workers are ruthlessly erased and reduced to a cold, single statistic, one burning, terrifying question hangs in the air. What horrors does tomorrow hold for them? The fall was swift and brutal, with countless people stepping directly from the gilded lobbies of five-star hotels onto the cold, unforgiving pavement. The moment tourists vanished, the tourism industry, the very heart of Las Vegas, began to hemorrhage. And as that vital artery clogged, the casinos, the glittering behemoths that once fueled over 27% of the city's jobs, began to seize up, grinding to a catastrophic halt. The inevitable fallout was a human tsunami, thousands thrown out of work, violently ejected from the warmth of their homes and onto the cold, hard streets. Dare to step into Vegas in 2025 and you'll discover the real gambling isn't happening in the casinos anymore. A far more desperate wager has taken its place. A raw, brutal battle for survival, fought by the very souls who once built this city's glory. The grim spectacle of sprawling tent cities, once relegated to the forgotten, impoverished corners of downtown, has now shockingly erupted right in the glittering heart of the Strip. This is happening on what's supposed to be the most opulent avenue in America. In a place engineered for fantasy, light, and carefree music, grim rows of makeshift shelters now scar the landscape, pieced together from tattered fabric and splintered wooden pallets. Under the blistering 115-degree sun, hundreds of human beings huddled together in a desperate struggle to exist, mere footsteps away from the air-conditioned casinos and their million-dollar roulette tables. The official ledgers as of early 2025 from the Southern Nevada Homeless Continuum of Care coldly report nearly 8,000 homeless individuals in Clark County alone. But that's just the tip of a horrifying iceberg. The true number is undoubtedly far greater, hidden away in the shadows, in broken down cars, in storm drains, and beneath the concrete bellies of overpasses. And here is the most bitter truth of all. These are not drifters or outsiders. These are the discarded cogs of the Vegas machine itself. The single mother who scrubbed the hotel rooms clean. The shuttle bus driver who ferried guests from the airport. The military veteran who naively believed their country would never turn its back on them. And yet, in a city with 150,000 hotel rooms, thousands are left with no safe place to lay their heads. What's more terrifying is that this plague of homelessness has metastasized across the Strip, exploding by a staggering 56% in just 3 short years. It's a crisis so out of control that even the city's tourism managers begrudgingly admit it's spiraling beyond their grasp. Just look at TripAdvisor or Yelp, now flooded with a torrent of grim warnings from tourists who've been harassed. They recount navigating streets choked with the stench of human waste and witnessing desperate brawls over a patch of concrete to sleep on. As one visitor wrote, "How can anyone enjoy a vacation in the middle of so much misery?" The chaos has turned the Strip into a nightmare. In response, casino giants like the Flamingo and Luxor have been forced to pour money into security, posting stark warnings against daring to walk outside after 10 p.m. The owners of restaurants and souvenir shops are in despair, lamenting, "The customers don't even stop now." They see the tent city and they just walk away. "My revenue has been slashed by more than half since that camp appeared. If this keeps up," one confessed, "I'm terrified I'll be living in one of those tents myself." Zero. This isn't just a crisis, it's a death spiral. More people are cast onto the streets. The site repels tourists. The economy contracts. And then even more people lose their jobs and their homes. This is no longer a cycle of crisis, it's a ravenous vortex, systematically sucking the very light and life out of a city that once boasted of its own immortality. And if this can happen to Las Vegas, a supposed symbol of the American economy's resilience, is now crumbling in a chain reaction of collapse. What terrifying fate awaits every other city? Are we to believe this is just a game we're watching? Or have we all been swept into a downward spiral, one that feels deliberately programmed never to end? A city rarely implodes from a single massive shock. The rot begins with tiny, imperceptible cracks. Then, chunks of concrete begin to fall, one by one, until the entire structure has nothing left to cling to. This is the story of Las Vegas today. It started with the silence in the empty casinos. From that silence, a catastrophic chain reaction was unleashed, and its final, devastating destination wasn't a few vacant card tables, but entire city streets overflowing with human beings who have no home left to go to. A chilling report from the US Census Bureau has just ripped the glittering facade off Las Vegas, revealing a city in a terrifying stall. Population growth has slammed on the brakes, and worse, the lifeblood of this city, its service workers, saw their incomes slashed by a devastating 6% between 2021 and 2024. Don't you dare think that's a small number. For a community hanging on by a thread, a community that lives and dies by every single shift, every single tip, that 6% isn't a statistic. It's a blade to the heart, because when the tourists vanish, the contagion of collapse spreads with sickening speed. It's not just the blackjack tables that fall silent. It's a domino effect that topples everything. The high-end boutiques, the corner diners, the taxi fleets, and even the humble roadside grocery stores. The decay is everywhere, and the warnings are coming from the front lines. A local bus driver confessed that in just 1 year, his routes from the airport to the city's core have been gutted, carrying more than a third fewer passengers. And in a voice hollowed out by despair, a souvenir shop owner admits his monthly earnings have been brutally cut to less than half of what they were before this nightmare began. But who needs sterile government reports to confirm the obvious? The people of Vegas don't need a spreadsheet to tell them their city is bleeding out. They see the evidence etched on every street corner with their own eyes. Entire neighborhoods, once thrumming with life, are now ghost towns, where the only thing moving is the cold reflection of neon on desolate sidewalks. And from that chilling emptiness, a new, more sinister vortex has torn open. The sequence is as predictable as it is cruel. Workers are cast out of their jobs, leaving them powerless to pay rent. The city's already pathetic supply of affordable apartments became a fortress, its doors slammed shut to the newly desperate. The inevitable, horrifying result? Families, children, are being thrown onto the unforgiving pavement. In a horrifyingly short span of less than 3 years, the official tally of Nevada's homeless population has exploded by over 15%. A grim statistic buried in the 2024 HUD assessment report. But these aren't just dry, abstract numbers. They have become a grotesque, living spectacle right on the world-famous Strip, where makeshift tent cities now sprout like poisonous weeds in the shadow of the dazzling neon. The contrast is so stark, it's sickening. And what a shock, this metastasizing crisis is now poisoning the very tourism industry that callously ignored its own decay. The digital world is buzzing with warnings. Tourist reviews are no longer about shows and buffets. They're filled with raw fear, detailing harrowing encounters, being accosted on the street, witnessing violent altercations erupt in broad daylight at bus stations. And when a city's global image becomes synonymous with chaos and danger, the tourists, the very lifeblood, will inevitably turn away. As one travel expert grimly warned, every single tent city that appears on the Strip is another stop sign, screaming at visitors to turn back. Now, facing this self-inflicted catastrophe, some businesses are scrambling to put a bandage on a gaping wound. A few hotels are making a show of cutting their predatory hidden fees, a desperate ploy to win back trust. Meanwhile, community funds are trying to cobble together affordable housing, forced to partner with the very same real estate giants who profited from the crisis. Look no further than Marriott International, which grandly announced a partnership with the city to partially fund a so-called Housing First initiative, supposedly offering new beginnings. Let's be clear, these are temporary fixes, desperate plugs in a dike that's about to burst. But they are, perhaps, the faintest sign that someone is finally acknowledging the flood. But this is the terrifying question we must all ask. If Las Vegas, that supposedly unbreakable monument to excess and resilience, can be brought to its knees by this catastrophic domino effect, what hope is there for any other city built on the fragile foundation of tourism and services? Is there any way to stop the next piece from toppling? Or are we all just helpless passengers in a chain reaction of greed and neglect that was set in motion decades ago? It's a cruel irony. In the blinding glare of the casinos, it's almost impossible to conceive that just a few blocks away, a shadow world of utter desperation is unfolding. This is the other Las Vegas, a city of people drowning in poverty, stalked by crime, and suffocated by despair. They call this the city that never sleeps. But the grim truth revealed by the latest data is that for thousands, it's a city of endless nightmares. As the economic engine sputters and dies, crime and poverty are coiling around its throat in an uncontrollable death spiral. The FBI's own Uniform Crime Report for Nevada paints a terrifying picture. A staggering 7% surge in serious violent crimes in 2023 alone. The so-called experts are quick to point fingers at the collapsing tourism economy, but that's only half the story. They also blame the explosion in the homeless population. People pushed to the absolute brink, where despair inevitably breeds conflict. And of course, they'll tell you no study directly proves the link, a convenient way to ignore the obvious human suffering. But ask the communities living in the shadow of the Strip. They don't need a study. They live the reality every day, where heated arguments, petty theft, and outright street brawls have become the horrifying new normal. One lifelong resident of North Las Vegas, a man who has seen it all, confessed he's now forced to lock up his store early every night, surrendering his own streets to the growing threat of violence. The evening buzz that once defined these neighborhoods has been replaced by an eerie, fearful silence. And small business owners will tell you their profits are plummeting, not just because the tourists are gone, but because their own neighbors, the local community, are now too terrified to venture out after dark. A pervasive, suffocating fear has systematically dismantled the glittering city of entertainment image that was so carefully manufactured for decades. And what happens when a population is consumed by despair? It's a straight path to ruin. Sociologists have warned us for years. When people are stripped of their jobs, their homes, and their last shred of hope, the siren call of substance abuse becomes deafening. And now, the whispers are turning into roars. Unconfirmed but terrifying stories of the tent cities becoming festering grounds for narcotics and violence, further poisoning an already panicked public. The city government can parade all the security forces they want, but it's a hollow gesture, a complete failure to confront the real demons tearing this place apart. But let's be clear, this isn't just the numbers game of crime rates and poverty lines. The real catastrophe is the soul of the community itself, fractured and bleeding out. The moment a city fails to shield its own builders, every bond of trust evaporates, and a catastrophic cycle of decay is set in motion. Poverty ignited a fire of insecurity. That insecurity choked off the flow of tourists, which in turn starved the city of jobs. And so the cycle churns on, a merciless engine with no one at the wheel. If Las Vegas, the glittering emblem of opulence and endless possibility, is now drowning in a swamp of poverty, crime, and utter hopelessness, what horrifying omen does that cast upon the rest of America? Is there any hope of clawing our way back? Or have we plunged so deep into the abyss that we are beyond rescue? There was a time, not so long ago, when Las Vegas was the incandescent dream of the American West, a shimmering oasis of pure, unadulterated hope. It was the city where lives could be transformed overnight, where the lights never dimmed on the promise of a new beginning. But today, that promise is dead, replaced by a chilling new nickname. A much more bitter name, the Detroit of the West. This isn't hyperbole for shock value, it's meant to sound an alarm. Detroit lost its very identity when the auto industry crumbled, and now Las Vegas is teetering on the same precipice, chained to the whims of entertainment and tourism. Once, Detroit was the titan of the auto world, but this total submission to a single industry was a ticking time bomb, destined to detonate the moment that industry began to rust. From a bustling metropolis of over 1.8 million souls in the mid-20th century, Detroit hemorrhaged nearly 2/3 of its people in a few short, devastating decades, leaving behind a haunting landscape of thousands of derelict homes and empty, silent streets. According to the cold hard data from the US Census Bureau, the city's population was gutted by over 60% since 1950. This haunting legacy serves as a chilling prophecy for any city that builds its foundation on a single precarious pillar. Today, Las Vegas finds itself teetering on the edge of the very same cliff. This entire mirage of a city is built on the sands of tourism, with hundreds of thousands of livelihoods chained directly or indirectly to its casinos, hotels, and shows. When the crowds thin, the whole glittering facade begins to crumble. The consensus among experts is a grim one. Vegas's myopic obsession with high rollers and tourist traps has sealed its fate as a one-trick pony, a chilling echo of Detroit's past. A single, sustained slide is all it would take for the entire local economy to completely collapse. In the face of this looming catastrophe, a few major corporations are desperately experimenting with escape routes for Vegas. You have Amazon sinking massive investments into its logistics network across Nevada, offering the promise of thousands of jobs that have nothing to do with casinos or shows. Tesla's Gigafactory near Reno also offers a glimmer of hope. The potential for a new technology corridor to snake its way through Nevada. Let's be realistic. This won't replace the tourism machine in a day, but these are desperate, essential moves to prevent the nightmare of another Detroit from becoming a reality. The ultimate question, however, remains unanswered. Does Vegas have the guts to heed Detroit's warning? A city born from a battle against the desert now finds itself in a war against its own flawed design. If they don't act decisively, the iconic lights will still flicker, but they'll be shining down on a ghost town. A city with its heart and soul ripped out. And if a city once called paradise is now cursed with the name Detroit of the West, you have to ask, where does this death spiral touch down next? Is it within our power to save another American legend from becoming just another ruin? Or have we waited too long? Is it already too late to keep the lights on in Vegas? We've seen cities fall into ruin before, only to rise from their own ashes. New York City, on the brink of collapse during the financial meltdown of the 1970s, was driven to the very edge of bankruptcy. Yet it survived by making brutal budget cuts and reinvesting in its people. So we must ask, is such a resurrection even possible for Las Vegas? Or is it doomed to be consumed by its own fatally flawed one-track economy? There are no simple fixes, but in every single comeback story, one fundamental principle holds true. Real change has to be seismic, starting from the very foundation. Thinking that cheap rooms and free drinks will solve this is a delusion. Those are just desperate short-term gimmicks. The colossal underlying flaw is its absolute servitude to one industry. When the gears of that entertainment machine seized up, the entire city convulsed. It's why a deafening chorus of experts is screaming for Las Vegas to diversify its economy, to build new foundations before the pressure from its tourism addiction causes a total collapse. A damning 2023 report by the Brookings Institution exposes a scandalous truth. Nevada is one of the worst states in the entire country for investing in research and development. It accounts for less than 0.5% of the state's GDP. This isn't just a number, it's a catastrophic failure and a desperate, final opportunity. The infuriating irony is Vegas could absolutely exploit its young workforce and strategic position to become a hub for technology, logistics, and renewable energy. If Reno could land Tesla's battery manufacturing behemoth, there is no excuse for Vegas not to be a regional tech or medical powerhouse. But alongside this economic delusion, the gut-wrenching crises of affordable housing and community support must be treated with the same urgency as any corporate strategy, as thousands are brutally thrown onto the streets. A proven weapon in this fight, the housing-first solution, prioritizing shelter above all else, has been a stunning success in countless other places. Salt Lake City decimated its homeless population by deploying this exact policy, and it is sheer negligence that Vegas hasn't learned from this stark lesson. Behind these cold statistics are thousands of real families, gasping for a lifeline to rebuild their shattered lives. Even some corporations now see a chance to play the hero. Google just dropped plans to expand its Nevada data center, dangling the promise of thousands of high-tech jobs. But these are not just numbers. They are a desperate signal flare that the future could be salvaged, but only if the city dares to escape the gilded cage it built for itself. Such investments do more than just create jobs. They send a powerful message that Las Vegas is more than a den of gambling. It can bet on intellect and innovation. But make no mistake, there is no simple cure for this waking nightmare. What is terrifyingly clear is that a city cannot survive on illusion and neon light alone. Vegas desperately needs a bedrock foundation where its own residents, not just tourists, feel they belong and can trust that tomorrow won't be even worse than today. If a city once branded a paradise is now choking in crisis, what does that say about our ability to protect what truly matters? Will Las Vegas become a testament to an incredible rebirth, or will it be just another corpse added to the graveyard of faded American dreams? This city was built as a dazzling stage where every dream was supposed to get its shot. But today, behind the blinding neon, is the grim darkness of sprawling tent cities and families with nowhere left to turn. And the very workers who built the fantasy have been shoved off the stage. This is not just a city's tragedy. It is a piercing, nationwide alarm. If the so-called entertainment paradise can rot from within, then where on earth is safe enough to build a future? Are we just watching an unstoppable downward spiral? Or is this the breaking point that forces America to forge a new path? And more critically, what kind of apocalyptic future are we condemning the next generation to if the cities that once symbolized hope now become emblems of total despair? If the catastrophe unfolding in Vegas raises terrifying questions about the stability of your own hometown, then you must speak out. Share your outrage in the comments section. Don't just watch this happen. Like and share this warning so this truth spreads like wildfire. And subscribe to this channel to continue arming yourself with knowledge for the battles ahead. The information in this video has been meticulously pieced together from numerous public sources and available reports, intended purely for critical analysis and information dissemination. We are not making official accusations, nor are we targeting any specific individuals, organizations, or governments. The damning facts speak for themselves. All data and examples presented are a snapshot of a rapidly deteriorating situation, and we implore viewers to seek out additional reputable sources for a more comprehensive and terrifying perspective.